back at university, I had a teacher. He was a cinema teacher. So he was teaching us how to basically do movies. And one thing that he said back then and stuck with me was that we are emotional beings first. That's why movies work with us. It moves us, right?
Right.
And my question now is, do you think that's our default pattern, like default be well, I don't even know how to describe it. Like mood is the correct word? Like we're always like on this emotional reactive state first, and then secondly the rational one?
Well, I think that, it's emotions are great. There's nothing wrong with emotions, but we want to be able to manage our emotions. And you manage your emotions by thinking clearly. Now, if you watched a movie and you're feeling sad because of something that's very nostalgic or, touching in the movie, that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. I'm basically focusing on disturbing emotions that you don't want to have. And that's when you dissect. I'm not saying to dissect every emotion that you have, but if you want to master your moods and you want to take control of anxiety, depression, low self esteem, that's the way to go.
If you
And
had
there's
mm,
nothing wrong with emotions, of course. We all are emotional, but emotions don't come usually just from out of the blue. They come from our thoughts, and our brain is registering that something is sad or upsetting.
which is okay, right? They come and go. Someone wants
Okay.
come again?
Absolutely okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just what happens when it gets out of whack. Everything is good in in proportion. I knew someone who had too many carrots because she was on a diet, and her eye, what is it? The whites of her eyes actually became a little yellow or a little orange. Too much of a good thing isn't necessarily a good thing. So, it's more about being able to manage your stress rather than carry it. Manage your emotions, master your moods. You want to be in control. I'm into self empowerment and not being at the whim of other people and feelings and things outside, because we're the only one who can really, make or break our moods.
And the crazy thing is that those other people, they do influence your mood. They do influence your energy. I believe in energy, right? I think there's something about it. When you surround yourself, for example, with negative people who are always complaining, it's just gonna drag you down. Do you think there's a perfect and ultimate way of just protecting yourself against those type of things, so you can always stay regulated regardless of what is going on around you?
Well, when you find people who are negative, negative people are hurting people. It's not like they're bad. It's not like they want to be negative. They are often unhappy people and they look in negativity. So that doesn't need to be contagious if we are more self aware and self empowering. And sometimes you can help that person. If someone says, "Oh, nothing ever goes right for me," instead of saying, "Oh, cheer up, nothing's so bad, look at all that you have," which is very dismissive, you could say, you can take their permanent words and role model what temporary solution words are, such as, "It sounds like you're having a rough time." Having a rough time and nothing works out for me are two different things. One is not empowering at all, and you have no control. And the other is you have the control. And when people feel like they're in control and that they have some power over their lives and not a pawn in a greater scheme of things and other people, they're happier.
And the best way of doing that would be writing and analyzing your
That's just an example I gave you.
okay.
But the best way of doing that is by using techniques and tips,
Techniques,
which
okay.
include writing. That's just an example. I'm not saying that that's the only thing to do. I'll give you another example that has nothing to do with writing. to distance yourself from your negative thoughts. So let's say you're thinking, I'm a loser. Let's say you lost your job. I'm a loser. I'll never get another job. Imagine that you're diffusing that from your head, those irrational thoughts, and watching it like it's on a cloud. Visualize yourself looking at that cloud that says, I'm a loser. I'll never get another job or something like that. And distance and look at those thoughts rather than look from those thoughts. One is that you're accepting them as true. And the other one is you're not accepting them as true. You're seeing them out there and then can decide if it's true.
Because the mind has the power to believe those things that we imagine, we tend up believing, right? So if you start imagining that those things are outside of you, you're gonna end up believing that's true.
I think that we believe a lot of what people have told us. And some people have told us things that aren't that healthy because those people were also hurting. And sometimes we need to redefine ourselves in a way that suits us now. I've seen so many clients that have the board of directors in their heads, and they're people that might not be involved in their lives anymore. Whether it's a family member who isn't even alive anymore, or a friend that had dropped them because of whatever reasons, and they still have the perception of themselves by other people's narratives that maybe weren't so positive. And it's important to identify and say, you know what, maybe they were hurting too, and that's why they handle things like that.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily help completely for you to heal. Let's say someone was a victim of abuse, grew up in a dysfunctional, abusive home, but most people grow up with some sort of dysfunction in their home. And not everybody, but most people do. And no one really intends to be dysfunctional, that's for sure. They're doing the best they can as they slog through life.
Yeah. That makes no one thinks they are dysfunctional themselves, right? They always think they are normal, even though they might not be so too much.
Absolutely.
Going back to this exercise that you gave us about the cloud, how do you normally do that? Do you sit still and close your eyes? It's like a meditation kind of practice.
It could be that's one way. It's called guided imagery or visualization, that you imagine that. You can imagine yourself in a movie theater, whether your eyes are closed or not, and imagine that on the screen, there's like a ticker tape, like the stock market ticker tape. And it's like all those words that you're thinking, you're looking at them rather than